Welcome back to World Crisis Radio. Webster Tarpley in Washington, D.C. A few more aspects of this exceptionally meritorious protest by Cindy Sheehan on Martha's Vineyard against Butcher Barkey, warmonger Obama. That's all he is. Take the scales off your eyes, as she's inviting you to do. Charles Gibson, the corrupt anchor man of the ABC nightly network news, was asked in an interview on WLS Chicago, what do you think of the fact that the peace movement through Cindy Sheehan is now protesting Obama? And after some verbal fumbling and tergiversation, this Charles Gibson of ABC News says, well, enough already. Yeah, enough already, Charlie. Not enough. Not enough while you've got the highest casualty level of any month in the entire history of the Afghan war. It's last month it was a total of 75 dead in the month of July. That is U.S. and NATO, because there's a significant British, Canadian, other contingents. It's about 30 countries altogether that are actually on the ground and are taking losses. It's much more of an international army in the full sense. It's a NATO army. That's what it is. It's a NATO attack on Afghanistan with all these other countries being dragged in, right? And it's all done under the activation of Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty of 1949. This was done in the wake of 9/11. So that's this goes straight back to 9/11. The comment by Charles Gibson also ignores that this month, in August, we're now coming to the end of August, the losses for the U.S. and probably also for NATO are going to be even higher than they were in July. So we'll have that figure for you next week. But the unmistakable tendency is that the casualty levels in Afghanistan are now approaching the worst phase of the Iraq war. This is also because of the terrain of Afghanistan and because of the strategy or lack thereof. Remember, Afghanistan is the graveyard of empires. The British in the 19th century defeated at great cost. One army almost completely annihilated. The Soviets there in the 1980s and went away with their country in a shambles and their entire political system collapsing. This was the handiwork of Zbigniew Brzezinski. As we know, he hasn't stopped boasting about it since, and he'd like to double down. He'd like to go va-banque, double or nothing, and attempt to destroy the Russian Federation, too. But that's leading us into another direction. And now, of course, the U.S. is there, and you think, oh, Zbigniew, you're so smart. Didn't you realize it's also going to destroy the U.S.? Well, who knows? Right now, the campaign being developed by the Washington Post and other ruling class Wall Street news organs is that there was too much vote fraud in the Afghan election, that Karzai was reelected, and that this is illegitimate. Now, that, I think, is very ominous. It normally, of course, we know when you have an election, a U.S. puppet gets put back into office in a puppet state election approved by the Carter Center or something like this. The media fall into line and celebrate democracy, right? We've seen that in Iraq. It doesn't matter what really happened. They're going to come out and celebrate democracy, i.e. U.S. imperialism triumphs over whatever opposition there might have been. This time, however, it's different. Now they're yelping about vote fraud. Is Karzai a candidate to become a new Diem? Is he going to meet the fate of President Diem of South in October, November of 1963, right before the Kennedy assassination? It's possible. And if that happens, you know what it is. That is the card of total chaos. We've often stressed in these programs that the goal of U.S. policy in Afghanistan has nothing whatsoever to do with this silly fiction of al-Qaeda, which is, in effect, it's a U.S. Tentacle of power. It's an auxiliary. It's the CIA's Arab Legion, always has been, was founded that way, and we've now got, I think Sybil Edmonds finally came around and repeated that Bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, these were U.S. assets. Well, that's been known for a long time. It's nice to have it confirmed from somebody who was on the inside of the government. But this is now the the story, if you try to overthrow Karzai, you're essentially saying that total chaos and confusion, a breakdown of the central government of Afghanistan, even beyond what you have now, is going to be used then to try to put that splinter factor into Pakistan. In other words, promote the collapse of Afghanistan into absolute chaos, balkanization, warlordism, the breakdown of civilization in every form, and then hope that spills over into Pakistan. That's at least a possibility to watch. Obama assembled a group of historians at the White House, and they tended towards a consensus in warning Obama that he is now treading the path of Lyndon B. Johnson with his insane Afghanistan adventure, and that if he doesn't want to imitate Lyndon B. Johnson in being forced out of office, I would add, he had better turn that around. Generally speaking, we have a turn of U.S. public opinion on this. It's an ominous turn for Obama. He had run on this, right? And for some reason, even though he was declaredly the biggest warmonger in the campaign, the left libs were so blinded by the dazzle and the sparkle and the thrill of being part of a fused group of Obama bots after so long under Bush. They couldn't hear it. They were simply blind, deaf, and dumb when it came to the actual policies. And most of the time, he didn't talk about actual policies. Here he did. He said, I'm going to bomb Pakistan. That was the one thing he was committed to. And, of course, now he's doing it. So this, I think, is looking very, very bad. Also, notice the Obama administration responding to reports in the Polish press that the Polish missile crisis has been called off, that the Obama regime is going to renounce putting those very, very dangerous missiles right on Russia's doorstep. And, of course, they claim these are anti-ballistic missiles. But what's the guarantee? You're putting missiles there. The target could be something in space, or it could be Moscow. How could the Russians know the difference? The Obama regime now hastens to reassure their East European NATO puppet states that the Polish missile crisis is emphatically still on. There will be missiles going into Poland and a radar going into the Czech Republic. The other aspect, of course, of Cindy Sheehan is the absolute moral bankruptcy of large parts of the U.S. Foundation-funded peace movement. We have talked about this in the past, going back 2 or 3 years. The principal factor of corruption, disorientation, dishonesty, and ultimate impotence of the U.S. peace movement. Above all, their refusal to embrace the question of 9/11 truth, due to the fact that they were getting money from the foundations. That money has now been cut off, and many of these groups are collapsing. We'll be back in a minute.